I learned about Olympic High School about 3.5, 4 years ago. I was told there's something going on down there in Charlotte. I'm up in Boston. We got people coming in from California, Maine, Vermont, Kansas City, elsewhere. And, I think the interest in this is that we're finding that we need to get kids more connected with the real world. We don't want them learning in vacuums. We don't want them learning necessarily only in classrooms. Not to say that a classroom is bad, but if we don't give the opportunity for students to sort of immerse themselves in the everyday world, then their learning can be quite limited. We also, and I'm sort of taking the lead from Antonio and his efforts, Antonio Bullion. We want all youth, and I want to say all youth, to have the opportunity. We don't want some youth, which tends to happen the way our education system works, to have opportunities. We want all youth, no matter where they live, where they come from, to see the possibilities in life, see that they have people that can help them get there, and to find gainful lives and gainful employment. And I think this is what's happening down there in Charlotte with these guys. And I think making the connection between K-12, higher ed, industry, and possibilities in employment and possibilities in pursuing careers and livelihoods that people are passionate and interested about is really, really, really important. So I think the interest in this is high, as we got 27 people on here now, and I'm going to take it away. I want to make sure you guys, as you talk about your story and you share the wonderful things you're doing there in North Carolina, I want to make sure we leave some room for conversation too. And I just want to thank you all for being here and just pass the baton and let's hear about what you guys are up to. Okay? Thanks.
Chris, do you want us to introduce ourselves first or just get into it?
Yeah, no, man. Introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Eric, why don't you start?
Yeah, Eric Olajarczyk, proud principal of Olympic High School. We want to go through the introductions and then I can give the background. Mike?
Sure. I'm Mike Ray Lawn. I am the Career and Community Development Coordinator at Olympic High School.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew Wyckoff, and I'm the Tech Ed Project Lead the Way Computer Integrated Manufacturing teacher at Olympic High School.
Hey, everybody. It's Mark Rollinger. Mark Rollinger with Bosch Rexroth. I am part of the advanced manufacturing team there, mainly working on special projects. And we make, at Bosch Rexroth, we make factory automation equipment systems, robotic type systems. And we've been working with Olympic High School and the guys there since about 2013. And looking forward to share our stories.
Great.
Yeah, so thank you so much for this opportunity. We're obviously very, very proud of the things that we've been a part of, and everything that we do is always in the name of students. And of course, we enjoy building networks and creating opportunities across the entire country with like-minded folk like you. I've been here at Olympic now for, I think this is my 8th year. I came here in 2012 as an assistant principal. Was here for about 3 years as an assistant principal, went away for a year and then came back as the principal or one of the principals at Olympic High School. And Olympic has been around for 50 years and it has had a very storied past, a lot of tradition, a lot of changes. The funny thing about Olympic is that when it was first conceived and opened in 1967, we were very much what would be considered a rural school, kind of on the outskirts of the city. But if you look at the data in regards to people moving and moving around the country for opportunities, Charlotte is booming and has been since I moved down here almost 20 years ago. So with that, Olympic has gone through so many changes and iterations over the school year, over the course of its history, as we've shifted with the dynamics of Charlotte. And I would say approximately 20 years ago, Olympic had hit a rough patch at the beginning of the millennium, where again the dynamics, the demographics had shifted, and it had gotten to a point where there was a very prominent judge in North Carolina that said that essentially Olympic and a few other high schools in CMS were committing what he had coined the term academic genocide, which is pretty strong in regards to the fact that we were not meeting the needs of our students. We weren't preparing them for life after high school, or to make adequate decisions that would give them the opportunities to do the best they could with their lives, to help them reach their potential and to help them attain a middle class lifestyle. So this was before my time, but Mike was very much a part of this. I want to say around 2005, leadership at that point in time had applied for a grant through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which the program, I think, was called Coalition of Essential Schools, where they had taken this large high school. I think we're the 5th largest high school in the state. We serve 2,600 students today. And they had broken it up into 5 small schools with the intent of being able to better serve the needs of the students. So not only did we have 5 smaller schools on campus, we had 5 principals, and it created a tight-knit community within those small schools, where the students really got to know their teachers, got to know administration, but also along with that, the schools all had a career focus. So we had the biotechnology school, we had engineering, we had Renaissance, which was arts, we had business, global business, and global economics. And when that model was implemented, the community quickly realized the benefits of that, and the test scores had gone up in some of those schools by 50%. And it was about that at that time where, and Mike was very much a part of this, where there was an intentionality around creating partnerships with businesses in the area, especially in Southwest Charlotte, where we were located. There's quite a few industrial parkways where we wanted to create partnerships and opportunities for our students, which included internships, experiential learning, project-based learning, and things of that nature. And because of that model, because of the work that was being done, because of the partnerships, we were seeing opportunities being created for our students that previously were not being created. And we were seeing successes that were not realized because we didn't have those structures, that infrastructure in place. So that model had lasted until about, I would say, 3 years ago, where, as you can imagine, when you have 5 principals working in a building, while there's a lot of benefits around the reduced amount of students that you have, so you can be more intentional with your students, there were other things that we had seen where there was quite often a lot of turnover with the principals, and it's while the career-based learning was very much intact here, the leadership within the district had felt it would be best if we recombined Olympic High School back into one comprehensive high school, but with the intent of still maintaining our career academies and the pathways and the partnerships that we had. So when I came back in 2014, I was one of 5 principals, and I was fortunate enough in my third year to then get 3 out of the 5 schools, and eventually I was selected to basically reinvent Olympic in the form of a comprehensive high school, but within that vein, also maintaining what had worked so well for us and the benefits that we had seen from the partnerships, the experiential learning, the career-based opportunities. And so 2 years ago, we reconstituted as one high school where we operated with me as the principal. And we've actually seen growth with our CTE programming, our career-based opportunities, because now that we have one vision, one mission, one way of doing things, it's allowed us to, as opposed to having infighting over resources such as, classrooms and teachers and things of that nature, we've been able to basically focus all of our energy, all of our resources on creating these opportunities, which I very much believe in. There was a report that had come out, I think it was, and I could be wrong, Mike would have to correct me, 3 or 4 years ago, where out of the 50 major cities that we have in in the United States, in terms of students having the opportunity to attain the middle class way of living and upward economic mobility, Charlotte ranks 50 out of 50. So for us, that has been our charge and our battle cry, is that we understand that the traditional method and processes of providing education at scale, public education at scale, definitely have not been effective for the vast majority of our kids that come through. We're very diverse. We very much mirror the demographics of the city. We're 45% African American. We're about 25% Hispanic, with a lot of those being new to the English language, about 15% white, and then the remaining being some of the other racial categories. So with that, we have about 50% of our students that come to us from poverty, that typically don't have the resources, don't have the ability, or have the access that other students have. And we take the equity gap very seriously. So again, when I was fortunate enough to have been selected to become the principal of Olympic High School, ensuring equity and opportunity for all of our students was very much what was at the forefront of all the work that we had done. I mean, to the point where we built it into our vision and our mission. And I'm just going to paraphrase. We said our vision is to inspire all students to become the best possible versions of themselves. And our mission is to create an atmosphere that cultivates and inspires lifelong learners and prepares our students for both college and careers, with a huge focus on careers. So as we've worked together, myself, the admin team, the CT administration, the wonderful teachers like Matt Wyckoff, we've been able to see some pretty impressive outcomes that we're pretty proud of. That's not to say that we don't have room to grow. I mean, the great thing about education is that you continue to learn, you continue to be reflective, you continue to close the gap. But we are a part of the National Academy Foundation, NAF. We have 5 NAF academies. We have 10 pathways. And as of, I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. We have been recognized as being the highest level in all 5 of those career academies. We're distinguished across all 5, which there's only 3 other high schools in the entire country since the early 1980s that have achieved that. We consistently have job opportunities, internships. We just built our ninth Habitat house. We have a advanced manufacturing machinery lab that was built with Bosch Rexroth and the funding. We have over, I think it's about $350,000 worth of equipment in there where we offer our kids advanced manufacturing classes that aren't typically offered to our students. So we realized those results in regards to our career academies, and we were also able to see tremendous academic gains as well. Last year, despite the fact that we had reconstituted as one school and it had to completely flip what Olympic was for 15 years on its head, we still attained 92% of our students graduating. We exceeded growth on our state exams, and the amount of industry credentials that our students attained increased by about 300%. So that's just a small taste of what we've done. And I know that Mike and Mark and Matt will go into some more details. But at the end of the day, what we know is that the majority of people make decisions about what they want to do for the rest of their lives based on experiences they've had and opportunities that they've had. And we know that if we can provide them those opportunities now, as opposed to them having to go to a 4-year college and change majors and spend $20,000 to $30,000 a year, if we can set them up on that path now, where all they may need is a 2-year degree, again, to reach the middle class, that's what we're about. And that's what we try to do each and every day. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so happy to be a part of this call.
So, like Eric said, I think to understand Olympic, and this is a school that got accused of committing the academic genocide of kids, and the state threatened to take us over in 2005. And then 2006, within 4 years in changing our model, our EOC test scores increased by 65%, graduation rates by 25%. And essentially, to understand it, you have to understand the Gates model, where the focus got to be is high school should be set up so that kids can become successful in school, work, and life, and that holistic method. So Olympic set on a path about how do we make kids successful in school, work, and life. And one of the key components that we embraced was the NAF model that said the kids in America should be both career and college ready. These are not mutually exclusive components. And that's the focus we've been in. So we looked at the city of Charlotte. We looked at the 5-year economic plan. We looked at the key industry sectors that were vital to the economic prosperity for Charlotte and were the major drivers of jobs. Then we set up putting in our career academy. And at the Olympic model with what we do is telling kids that we know the status quo doesn't work for America when we look at education. Half of our college educated folks are unemployed or underemployed, when before this pandemic, America was trying to fill 7.5 million unfilled jobs. So openly, always, Olympic was addressing the status quo and saying it doesn't work. And we've got to give our kids better messages so that when they come to us, that we're a school of hope, that they can see that they have a pathway to prosperity, that they can reach their human and economic potential, that they understand the key industry sectors locally and the number of jobs. Before the pandemic, there were 100,000 unfilled jobs today in Charlotte. High paying, high skilled. And understanding that most of them don't take 4-year college degrees, but you have to be smart, you have to be skilled, right? It is going to take some post-secondary education, but there are a variety of paths. So Olympic, since that time of moving in the direction of career academies, we partnered with the business community, those key industry sectors in Charlotte. And since that time, we've had over 700 business partners become involved with Olympic. They have volunteered 30,000 hours and over $20 million, cash and in kind, towards project-based experiential learning. with what we do. In the scheme of how are we going to create kids who can reach their human and economic potential, it's moving in that direction that they start connecting their education and its meaningfulness, right, with regards to how it can help them reach their human and economic potential. So in doing that, in our model that emphasizes, when you know the Gates, the Coalition of Essential Schools and Gates, they have what they call the 10 common principles, right? The 10 core values, the 10 commandments. We want our kids to learn how to use their minds well. We want them to be able to think creatively, innovatively, critical thinking, problem solving, right? We don't want a lot of rote memory going on with what's going on. That should not be the emphasis in our model of the test score. We want our kids to have the opportunity to show mastery in different ways, right? We want to get the commitment of the entire school community. We say less is more. We need to provide kids opportunities to find what they like, give them agency, and give them the opportunity to go deeper with their learning and have it connect with what's in it for them, hopefully someday, and that they can see some kind of pathway of a career, of some skills, be it hard skills and soft skills, that can help them reach their human and economic potential. Now, in order for us to be able to do that, we've got the folks, we've got a business leader here, and we've got a teacher who can talk about what that looks like from a project-based and experiential learning with what's going on at a school like ours since 2006 in general. Matt, you want to talk a little bit about some of the projects and things that you're doing in your classroom?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Well, where do I start? I guess I'll back up a little bit. My first 10 years with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools was teaching engineering at Vance High School, which was a 100% free and reduced school. And then this past 4 years, I've been at Olympic High School, which is 50% free and reduced, if I'm not mistaken. Significant difference when it comes to industry support, right? I mean, there was support from local businesses in the university area, which is the northeast of Charlotte, but coming down closer to Westinghouse Boulevard, where it's more of a manufacturing area, it was night and day when it came to the support from our advisory board and our business partners. Much more engagement. I mean, literally like almost day by day engagement. And when you can bring in the business community and also focus on product design specifically related to current events, it really just turns on learning, right? It gives the opportunity to the students take everything you've been practicing for all these years and apply it to something that can be of value to our communities. So that, I'll just talk about some of the projects that we've done in the past. A couple of years ago, the Parkland, Florida shooting happened, and we were just starting our Shark Tank project, which was with alignment with Bosch Rexroth Aluminum Extrude and Livingston Haven, who's a distributor of Bosch Rexroth Aluminum Extrude. Basically, we take this material, or the students look at this material and all the different products that are used with this material and try to innovate or try to use it to create something new. So when the Parkland shooting happened, the students were started looking into our own lockdown procedures and actually noticed that we're not really locked down really well. There's a glass door that can be easily compromised, significantly easily compromised, and it wouldn't take much for someone to enter in the door, even through the door, even though it was locked. So the students came up with a prototype. We went through the design process and ended up with a prototype and tested it, and called out the fire marshals and got their feedback that we had to take it down because it wasn't meeting building codes. And that kind of started the process of, well, is there anything really can we do, within the confines of these building codes, fire codes. And so, we were kind of struggling on what we could actually do. So this past semester in the fall, we came up with a new iteration, new design, called the fire marshals out again, but just did a lot more documentation this time and made Charlotte Fire and everybody put it in writing instead of just verbally, and got that documented that, what we were proposing and what they actually said we couldn't do. So right now, that ended up in fall, and then our business community, one of our, Clifton Van, our chairman to our advisory board, was like, we need to look into patenting that product and, developing some type of, legal entity and moving forward with a business plan. But, so I just reached it back out to one of the students who was leading the project and said, well, you got to put a business plan together or we're not going to be able to move forward. So he's been working on that virtually from home. Basically, so there's three parts. There's the aluminum extrude here. And basically this comes from scraps from other projects. So it's like a lean manufacturing process where you're reducing waste. So there's a lot of opportunity to look into all these materials that businesses have left over from their projects and figure out how to use them as a value-added product, right? So this is actually scrap from one of their projects. So very, very small. And this slides in and locks into two brackets. Here's one bracket. And they designed this in Autodesk Inventor and then wrote it with HSM CAM, the manufacturing process, to CNC machine it with our Haas mill. And basically they just interlock. And then it just secures the door in place. We did some testing, had some videos. We published it at, yourstudent.com/leanlock, so you can see the full documentation, the video testing, and everything from there. But that's just one example. Currently, we're working on, for my garage, I have bought a CNC machine, the original prototype, to a company called ShopBot out of here, Raleigh, North Carolina. Our school bought the commercial version, alpha version of the ShopBot, and basically it's another CNC machine, but considered a CNC router, and it just manufactures on a much larger scale. And we were doing projects with the students a couple of years ago. I shared it with the owners of the company, and I said, "Hey, is there any way you guys can I buy a used one for my garage? Because I love this." And they said, "Well, I just sold my pontoon boat for $3,000. That's all I have." And they're like, "Well, a used one's about $6,000, but you're kind of in luck. We're moving, and we can't take our original prototype with us. Would you like to buy it from us?" And I did, and ever since then, well, I went out and disassembled it at Raleigh, brought it back here to Huntersville, and set it up. It took me 4 days to reassemble it, and they came out on the husband and wife of the owners of ShopBot, or founders, came out and wired it up on New Year's Eve for me, and just been operating a business with my wife and I, just making signs from it, and basically kind of up my skill sets to just a couple weeks ago, saw that people were making face shields, and I was like, well, I think that's something maybe we can do in class. So I downloaded open source file from BetterBlock and went right into it. started posting the project on our Canvas system just to get feedback from the students and their design ideas as they're doing school from home. And so these are face shields that we're starting to manufacture. I don't know if you guys can see that, but two parts, and they snap fit together, and we just produced about 400 in the past couple weeks, and are distributing those out, and looking into Lowe's Home Improvement is going to sponsor all the material for this next month for us to continue producing right out of the garage. So, we're challenging. Like, I just met with the students today, and I said, all right, well, this is happening. Let's continue to evolve the idea. What's your feedback on the process, and how can we improve? Maybe even bring in some aesthetics, depending on which users, what that might help their environment. And anyway, just another example of taking a current event and allowing the students to work together to do something that will impact the community in a positive way. And in this case, trying to protect our community with what we're dealing with here. So there's so many projects, guys. We've done so many projects, but those are the two latest ones. And you guys have any questions on that? I do not have direct instruction too long in my classroom. So, I'd like if you have any questions or anything at this point, I'd be open to.
I don't know if there's anybody else, Mike, that's going to be presenting or anything, but we could do Q&A now, or we could wait to the end. Up to you guys.
Let me add a little bit, and then Mark's going to talk a little bit too. So just in general, when we look at Olympic, and we're heavy into Shark Tank and project-based learning. We actually get lots of money donated on an annual basis. Every project that they can apply for grants, the projects that are designed by teachers, they have to follow the framework for 21st century skills. And in that framework, so that kids are having to think critically and problem solve. They have to, in those components, communication, collaboration, at the top of those components of how those are designed within what we do, so that those projects that are being designed by teachers help kids understand what are those key cognitive and non-cognitive skills that they need to be developing, and that they're in alignment with what the business community wants. So in the grand scheme, that's how you get to so many volunteer hours and so many dollars being committed to Olympic High School towards these projects, because it aligns directly with what are those employability skills, and that the skills gap that we're having in America. How can we put those and integrate those into actual projects that are happening at school? Mark, you want to talk a little bit about the things of how so a key component to understand of what the secret sauce at Olympic gets to be this, is that with our 5 career academies that drive the kind of innovation and progression at Olympic, when we look at that data, no educator, nobody from Olympic and nobody from the school district, when we look at the 5 industry board, no educator other than post-secondary colleges, they're the only ones who get to vote. Collectively, we're determining what the goals and objectives of these career academies should be. How do we align so that we can make career and college-ready kids? How can we do things so that kids have a better chance to reach their human and economic potential? And based upon that, we strategically plan, and then the school is held accountable for the progress they're making based on the strategic plans that we're doing with all those key industry sectors. So that is a key differentiating feature at Olympic of why you have so many industry partners involved, and that deep level of engagement and involvement with what happens at that school, because we openly tell them we're going to be as good or as bad as you guys. You're the ones who are going to lead and drive us in the direction so that we can meet the expectations of what you want as employers. Mark, you want to talk a little bit about your experience at Olympic? Mark Rollinger at Bosch?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, we got introduced to Olympic and Mike, back in 2013, basically out of necessity. We had moved a lot of our operations from the north down to the Charlotte location, doubled the size of our business. And then we struggled quite heavily to find the necessary workforce we needed to fill the positions that we moved here. So we talked to some of our business partners in the area who already had been interacting and helping out Olympic High School and suggested we team up with them to help build basically a pipeline of our future workforce. Basically, they're right in our backyard, so if it was, we also try to support the other high schools in the area, but mainly since they're the nearest and with the most ongoing activities and effort in this area already, it was a pretty good find for us that we could then hook up with them and what they already had been going on, and just what we could do then to help even further along and provide more support. So really the first thing is that we found out we're mainly looking for CNC machinists and skilled assemblers, precision assemblers. And in the local high schools, we found that there was no machine shops. There used to be 20, 25, 30 years ago, but since things went to China, then quickly the need for teaching those types of skills went away, and the machines went away. So that was the first thing we did, is we helped Olympic start an advanced manufacturing center where we got them the basic equipment, the saws, the mills, the drills, and even then CNC machining center and also a CNC lathe for the higher end work. So we supported them with money to do that, and also supported them in actually developing that whole center and all the equipment that went in there. And then from there, that has just grown into all other opportunities. And Mike can talk more in the details about that, of what then he and the rest of the colleagues there at Olympic were able to do with that machine shop. Has been quite amazing. And the other thing we did is Bosch is a big sponsor of FIRST Robotics throughout the U.S. So our headquarters came to us and said if we could get some volunteers together to start a FIRST Robotics team, they would sponsor the money side. And so again, it was a natural fit with Olympic. We started our first robotics team here. That we are still the major sponsor for. We contribute a major amount of volunteer hours to that, along with other business partners in the areas now. So we've got a strong FIRST Robotics team going there, and even we donate money back to the middle and elementary schools for also robotics programs there as the feeders to the bigger program. So those are probably the biggest things that we could do to help support, and for sure, Olympic was very engaged and willing to then take that and really expand it further beyond the normal realms of those types of programs. And some of the stuff Matt was talking about there, Mike and Eric, really it takes I guess a real community to accomplish some of these things. So for sure, you got to have a school that's positioned themselves to do this, which Olympic has, as Eric was explaining the background. You got to have then people at that school, like the guys here, who want to do more than the norm in this, and to really take it and fly with it. And then you really have to have the business partners, and we're just one of many in the area around Olympic High School that provides an awful lot of support, both money, but also with volunteering their times to be on advisory committees and helping with talks at the schools, helping with tours at the facilities, any other special events that come along to support those, and also to create work-based learning opportunities such as apprenticeship programs. So that's another thing that is very well established in the area with the local companies. We're part of that. that we try and bring in a couple of apprentices a year, but some of the other business partners actually bring in quite a lot more than that. And then also just trying to provide other business opportunities even outside the engineering realm, where we also need other support functions to support our business, and we can go to Olympic High School and say, hey, I need someone for a month to help us with some CAD work, or I need someone for a period of time to help in our logistics area. So it's even becoming a resource for us when we need some extra help, that we can ask and get some really qualified entry level type people to help us out. So it's really been a win-win for everybody. Again, selfishly we're in it because we have a business need, but it's also a really good feel-good thing to do regardless. So that's kind of the basic story behind what we've been involved with.
To kind of understand what Mark's actually done, at Olympic, there's a $350,000 advanced technology and manufacturing center, probably like no other in the United States, to provide our kids resources. The minimum, when you look at Charlotte today, there are 10,000 unfilled advanced manufacturing jobs. The median wage for a CNC technician, according to the Workforce Development Board here, is $67,000. So it's pathways to hope and opportunity that are provided at our school as we take them from 9th through 12th grade to make them career and college ready, that our engineering kids see that some of them aren't going to be happy unless they go to NC State or Clemson and become an engineer, but some of the kids sitting next to them are just as smart. But they can still have a pathway if they don't want to have to go to 4 years of college, and still, through a 2-year degree, reach their human and economic potential. Also, with those programs, like Mark said, as we look at experiential learning, FIRST is awesome. So it's run like a business. We believe every business should support FIRST. 40 to 50 kids it's like an internship, and that they receive thousands of mentorship hours every year with one of the most advanced technology companies in the world. It counts as a paid internship for them with what they're doing. Olympic, books have been written about Olympic, most like what school could be, as well as our kids going to the White House to meet with the president and their first robotics kids. Those are the kids that they get this really special opportunity to really engage with social capital from highly skilled professional mentors and see the different pathways that are available to them, be it if they're going to the community college to get those kinds of skills, or to make sure they're getting degrees that matter when they go to a university as well. So that's one of our premier programs that we can foster experiential learning with, that we see as just awesome with the impact it's had on our kids since 2005.
Amazing. So how about, is anybody else presenting, or can we do some Q&A now? Be great.
Q&A.
Let's do it. People should throw questions in the chat window. I'll try to monitor a little bit, but we'll also, as people are doing that, who wants to jump in?
I've got a question.
Oh.
Thank you all. Eric, you had mentioned this, and Mike, you also mentioned this a couple times. I'm working with a school for disadvantaged girls in East India that has very little, but you might be surprised to hear that the founders, who are Americans, are really pushing for all of the girl students who are in a community where a lot of people don't read. Okay, so it's very disadvantaged. And everyone in the schools below the Indian poverty line. But they're really pushing for this idea that all of the students go to a 4-year college. And this came up in a lot of my interviews with teachers, that this is sort of a problem because they don't think that this is going to be possible for all of them. And I was encouraged by you saying that what's best for each student may not be a 4-year college. I mean, it could be a vocational or technical school or a 2-year degree. And I just would like for you to address, the issue of adopting this counseling option and what the buy-in was for parents and others in the community.
Yeah, so I'll go first. The paradigm that every kid has to go to college is still very much out there, and it's still something that we very much encounter. So it's really a multi-tiered approach that we take in regards to educating the community and educating our students. And, Mike is at the forefront of that work where, of course, our guidance counselors, I see a question on here about, well, do kids still have to take your typical classes like algebra and English? Yeah, absolutely. So they have to take all the college prep coursework that's designated by the state of North Carolina. But what we've done is we've been very intentional in regards to how we provide guidance to our students in regards to the fact that we are wall to wall with our academies, and every student is, it's an expectation that they choose one of the 5 academies. And we had a very intentional PR project, if you will, where Mike and the other CTE administration had essentially presented the students the various opportunities through these career academies, some of the things that he had spoken about in terms of the internships, the salaries, things of that nature, which have helped to bridge that gap. So not only are we doing that within the, for the students during the school day, but Mike, several times a year, will have informational sessions for parents in the evening where they can come up and they can hear about all these opportunities. But yeah, I mean, that's still something that just the old paradigm that everybody has to go to college is something that we're still trying to work through. But I think because this work has been culture for 15 years, it's become easier for us.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
I think I'm Deirdre Price. I'm a retired assistant principal of a high school in Connecticut, and now teach in higher ed, teaching, training people to become principals, working really hard to get them not to do more of the same. So this is really fascinating to me. But I think the fear with the like CTE type courses is that in the past, a lot of them have been very low level. And it was just another way to sort students of color and students who are lower income into dead end pathways. What you're describing is something very different. And so I think people need to know what exactly you're talking about and how high level this is. And you're doing exactly the right thing. I mean, you're getting kids into colleges, whether they're 2 or 4, and you're also being able to show it from traditional methods like scores that you're getting results. So I think that's where you're getting a pushback is the old-fashioned way. And unfortunately, there aren't that many programs like this yet. There's still a lot of dead-end CT from what I read.
Yeah, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the pushback that we're seeing is more so from some of the families that we have in the higher socioeconomic components of our population, where they have this perception that their kids have to be lawyers, doctors, et cetera. That's been my experience. But, to piggyback on what you had said, yes, the pathways, the partnerships have been built around opportunities within Charlotte and high-paying opportunities. So not only are we benefiting the students, right, and helping them to achieve middle-class opportunities, but as a whole, we're benefiting Charlotte by for the lack of better terminology, increasing the tax base and having citizens that are contributing to the community as a whole.
This is Rosemary.
If I can just add a little bit to what Eric's saying real quick, just we stress lifelong learning. And in the grand scheme of this, that our kids are teenagers, they don't really know what they want to do yet. And then we tell them they have to kind of lifelong learn, but there's a variety of pathways to get there. And in the grand scheme, when we look at data, 50 to 70% of Americans hate or dislike what they do. 51% regret all the decisions they made about college, according to Gallup. So our model is about sharing. I can't tell a kid what makes them happy. I can't tell them, essentially what direction, what they're going to do in their life. I do tell them, though, that you got to be a lifelong learner. And it takes some effort during high school that you start connecting your learning to what's in it for you and where you can go. And there's a lot of variety of different paths in order to get there. So we have a lot of different apprentices. We started a new one this last week about esports. Kids are getting paid $10 an hour in a pre-apprenticeship program doing esports. Tournaments, learning how to code, how all of that overlaps together with what they're doing. So we're there to show kids there's a lot of variety of different pathways in order to get there, but you have to have valuable knowledge and skills so that one day Mark Rollinger at Bosch is willing to hire you along with other employers. And you're going to have to do it in a lifelong way because the tech is going to continue to change all the time. And I stress this, too many kids go to high school and they've already tuned out. All they've been told is you got to go to college or you don't have a chance. And we're there to show them that there's a variety of pathways in order to get there and that you can. We're going to help you reach your human and economic potential, but you've got to have knowledge and skill in order to make yourself valuable in order to be able to do that. Sorry, Rosemary, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just wanted to reinforce what you were saying because I've been in industry for 28 years now, and I've sat on so many committees where, parents want the best for their kids. They want them to go to college, but I stress to them that's not always the best. We're looking for welders. And they can make very good money. And it's more about finding the right fit. And what I really liked about when Mike had invited me to the school, it was for the career workshop where the kids, it was like speed dating, right? But speed talking to them about their careers. And I would talk to the kids about, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you want to go to college? Do you not want to go to college? Because there's something for everybody out there. And I think it's important to reinforce that our operators can make up to $26 an hour. Then they can get into a company, they can progress and go to college for free. There's a lot of companies that have tuition reimbursement. So I think it's important to remind kids that they need to just get started. They need to be employed every day. They can make their own way. It was really fun being involved in, I think, those kinds of events for kids who really aren't sure what they want to do. And I really appreciate Mike inviting us. I used to sit on committees where I would talk to teachers and I would also talk with parents. And parents are the toughest, right? Because they've all said that they want their kids to go to college. But so many of these kids we see fail out because it just isn't the right fit for them or they're not ready for it. It might be a better fit when they're older in life. That's another thing I find is that some kids aren't ready at 18, 19, but maybe at 23, 24, then they are ready. So, I enjoy talking to them and finding out what they want to do and what excites them, and then kind of letting them know there's so many opportunities, at least at our company in Fort Mill. So, and in other companies, obviously. But I really want to thank Mike for having those opportunities.
I know we were scheduled to go till 4, but if Mike and your colleagues could stay on another 10 minutes, I feel like we're just starting to get into this, if that's okay with you guys. Anybody else needs to hop off, but I want to keep it open for 10 minutes because this is a rare occurrence for us all to be here across the country talking about this very important thing. So are there we got some questions in the chat, I think, and does anybody want to just hop on and ask another question?
Paul Scubito from Linden Institute. I just wanted to quickly thank you guys at Olympic High School for opening this up for us and peeling back the curtain so we can see what you're doing. It sounds like you're doing unbelievable work there. Quick question, and this might be hard to answer because of all the different stuff you're doing, but could you take us through what a typical day might be for a kid in one of those academies, just so we can get a sense of what their day is like? Thank you.
I could speak from the overall school perspective. All of our kids, we operate on a block schedule, which means that kids have 4 blocks that are 90 minutes long. So they take 8 classes a year, and ultimately we have to schedule them with their core classes first, because that's what students need to graduate. The 4 Englishes, the 4 maths, things of that nature. But what I tell my counselors when they're scheduling kids is that the CTE classes are also, the academy classes are also right there. So on a logistical scale, they could have those classes. They could have 2 of them, per semester. They could have 1 first semester, 1 second semester, but they are with those teachers for 90 minutes. And Matt and Mike could probably talk more so about what it looks like within the classrooms.
Sure, I can go next. So I teach computer integrated manufacturing, and that's predominantly our juniors and seniors who've already been through everything. That they probably could graduate early, but they're choosing to complete all of their Academy of Engineering or Advanced Manufacturing pathway courses beyond the general required credits to graduate. And basically, I would say the first semester, or the first half of the fall semester, they are doing a lot of CAD CAM tutorials with Autodesk, HSM CAM. So they're learning that technology. And then the second half of the course, I break them up in the 3 different 2-week rotations. And so that one of the rotations is where they are actually manufacturing a prototype on a CNC machine. So they're verifying their designs, and then they're actually running the parts and completing that process. And then another a group would maybe be working on OSHA certification, which is a 10-hour course separately. And then, then there's another third rotation where, they're possibly working on a STEM industry STEM project, like the barricade, for example. So within those small groups, I can really personalize the learning and differentiate and just meet every student where they are in that process. And, and then a lot of them are, working on the robotics. A lot of the students are in the robotics team, so they're bringing a little bit of that into the classroom. Some of them are coordinating with Mr. Raylon their apprenticeship and internship applications, and working on that. So it's very blended at that level.
So just to add with Matt, it's just there gets to be a misnomer sometimes about CTE kids. And we're a school where, we've got 2,600 kids. And 85% of the kids who graduate, they will have a NAF, National Career Academy diploma, because we emphasize they should be both career and college ready. Our valedictorian a couple years ago, she started at Olympic in the Arts School. She got involved with a project where we do Lenovo mobile app after school. They actually learn how to code, and they're going to deliver a mobile app at the end. She came because she wanted to draw, right? And now this kid who became valedictorian, she too was taking the CTE classes. And the pressure on those kids with their AP classes. And she ended up at Duke for free. She's a double major in both computer science and engineering, right? But she came to Olympic to draw. But it's because of the exposure and the climate and the culture of encouraging you to have to be both career and college ready. We want you to take your career assessment. We want to find out where you're at. I want you as a teenager to understand the data. That for most Americans, they don't pick a degree that matters. Right? And I want you to come in touch with that. I have nothing against university. My wife's in the office next door. She's a PhD doing telehealth right now. But I don't want you to just get a 4-year psychology degree thinking that's a pathway to prosperity and employment, because it isn't. And I want you to come in touch with that and help you find yourself and become self-aware about what makes you happy and what kind of degrees matter. And I want you to have the opportunity to be able to interact with Rosemary at Schaffler, who can kind of help you go through this process of helping you find who you are and what you need to do from a secondary education standpoint to reach your human and economic potential.
Thank you, guys.
Powerful. Well, I'm gonna, for the sake of time, although I have some ideas how we can do some follow-ups on this, so I don't think this is not the end, right? That's not the reason for this. This is just the beginning. I want to, Antonio, I don't know if you want to, you brought us together. You want to have some words of the need. You've seen this. You work with lots of communities, Antonio, there in the Southeast, not just North Carolina, South Carolina, and other places. Do you want to close us out with any words of around the need for and the need of possibility for this? Or am I catching you in a bad?
Oh, no, you're not catching me off. So one of my sneaky goals, I have a lot of sneaky goals in life. And one of my sneaky goals is to get Dr. Unger and Next involved with Mike. My other sneaky goal is to get Corey Mon and his network, CAPS, involved with Mike. And so I've completed those sneaky goals. And then to get my colleagues in the doctoral program fired up and lit about what's going on at Olympic. I have another high school. In the South, we're really focused on college and career ready and economic mobility, tying those two factors together. And we're really trying to create pipelines for all students to go into industry. So we look at the economic mobility numbers in cities across our region, and then we try to create pathways for these students through high schools to get into our industry. And so that will be the last thought, but I want Bosch and Rosemary, I want your company to support Corey's Kansas City event, and I want Corey to come down to Charlotte to be baptized by Mike. And if that could happen, and then my colleagues, as we convene in Charlotte, if we could go see what Mike's doing, I'm going to be happy. So I'm real happy right now. I'm living to be the local, as they say. Have a good evening.
Hey, hey, this is not the end of this. And by the way, Antonio, you got to make sure you don't leave the Unger out of the beer fest down in Charlotte where we're cooking up some more magic. So let's make it happen, Mike. You guys have been awesome. Eric, the rest of you guys in the industry, what you're doing at the school. I can't agree more with the way that you presented the need. We have to create possibilities, as Deirdre was talking about too, for all youth. I noticed across the country that a lot of programs, the ones that are on the cutting edge or progressive end, if you can call it that way, are happening primarily in middle and upper middle class neighborhoods or suburbs and so forth and so on. And we're leaving those other youth that really need this opportunity as well. I bemoan the fact that NCLB has left us in a rut where the focus has become laser focused on the rise of math and ELA scores, which has really jeopardized how we're actually creating opportunities in these communities. We need to join forces. We need to join forces locally. We need to join forces across the country. We need to learn from one another. We're not creating fiefdoms or silos. Let's bring it all together. Let's make it happen. Let's change the world. You guys are awesome. Love it. Let's make it go.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, let's change the world.
Let's go.
Antonio, 2020.
There you go. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Antonio. All right, thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Eric,
Thanks again.
I love
Thanks,
you, man.
Mike.
Eric, you're amazing.
Antonio.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Great.
High
Mike.
five, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.